It's match day for Arsenal in the Champions League as they take on Sporting, looking to get back to winning ways and continue the form they started at the weekend when they also go to West Ham this next weekend, hoping for another 3 points. A big week for Arsenal. Hopefully the momentum can keep flowing. This is the Arsenal News Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal News Show, joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time, although I'm joining you at 9 a.m. Spanish time this morning here in San Sebastian. Of course, for the next few days, the surroundings are going to be slightly different. The audio is going to be slightly different. The video quality is going to be slightly different. So do forgive me for that. But still, despite being away, I'm still providing you with a show. So I'm hoping that you're appreciative of that. I hope you're still dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. I'm using the AirPods. I'm hoping that that's going to provide us with as much audio quality as feasibly possible. If it's not great, we might have to go through the laptop, but I don't think that's going to be any better. So I didn't bring my microphone with me. I just didn't want to pack it all away. So this is the best we're going to get over the next few days. So I hope that you can deal with it. But it is match day. Good morning to those joining us live in the chat box. Good morning to Paul, Matt G, Rowan, Pika Who. We've got Errol and Olawale. Good morning to Black Shine and Rich and Wilson. We've got Amira and Carl. Good morning to you, to Louis, to Stevie, to Barry T, Temi, Edison, Roy, and plenty more of you guys and girls in the chat as well. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Please do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. Let's jump into today's stories, though, and we start with the weekend's action with the under-18s who lost to Crystal Palace in the Cup. Of course, there's no under-21s football. There's no women's football at the moment, but the under-18s were in action but fell to a 2-0 defeat against Crystal Palace in what we hope will be the first of very few defeats that we need to talk about through the rest of the season. There's a lot of changes going on, of course, with the under-18s. We know that Jack Wilshere moved on, Adam Birchall has taken over that side of things, and we hope that they're going to be continuing to bring through plenty of fantastic talent that maybe will get an opportunity for Arsenal in the future. Newcastle, meanwhile, have effectively begged Alexander Isak to stay with the club. Of course, at the moment, there is a lot of talk about the Swedish international being linked with a move to not just Arsenal, but a lot of other clubs as well. And not only that, but we saw them lose last night to West Ham. It puts their situation regarding a potential European place again in some kind of peril. They're currently sitting down in 10th right now, and it was an opportunity for them to rise as high as 6th in the league had they had managed to win that game against West Ham. Now they're just 3 points ahead of the team that just beat them. Isak blanking for the first time in several games against West Ham United, but it was these efforts made by the Newcastle supporters, I think, in response to a number of reports. Florian Pletterberg of Sky Germany reporting yesterday about Arsenal's interest in Isak, that contact had apparently been made and that he's being looked at as a potential future option for the club. He would be a very good signing, I think most of us at least would agree, and is one of the potential standout candidates to be an Arsenal centre forward for the future. So let's wait and see if there's any more updates on this. And of course, if there are any, we will bring you as and when they come. The big news of yesterday, though, was the sight of Kieran Tierney back and training with the squad. Not only that, but Kieran Tierney was, of course, with the Arsenal team as they boarded their flight to Lisbon yesterday afternoon. There was an open training session, of which a number of journalists were, of course, at yesterday before they flew to Portugal. But Mikel Arteta is very happy to have Kieran Tierney back in his team. He conducted his press conference and was asked about the latest team news, to which he said, everyone who is in the squad is fully fit to start the game. We have Kieran Tierney with us after a long injury, and it's great news that he is back. He's been training with us and he is available to participate. And he's exactly straight in with the squad. You know, there was a lot of question marks about whether or not we would even see Kieran Tierney when he did return to the group. But we know that Ben White is out injured for a while. We know that Takehiro Tomiyasu is still going to be out also for a while. So there are spaces that have opened up, and it seems that Kieran Tierney will get an opportunity to find that as well. So really, really good to see Kieran Tierney back with the group, and maybe indeed he'll get some minutes. Who knows? Maybe today, maybe at the weekend, maybe in that upcoming quarter-final League Cup game against Crystal Palace. We will wait and see. But continuing forward with Mikel Arteta's press conference, he talked about a number of things yesterday. Of course, he mentioned there that everybody who is in the squad is fully fit. That means that Havertz is fit. It means that Declan Rice is fit. It means that Saka's fit. Martinelli's fit. Some of those players didn't come off the bench at the weekend when Arsenal won their game. But they did manage, of course, to rest quite a few ahead of what is a huge game. And he was asked about how important it would be to make a statement with a win. And he said it's certainly something that we have to improve. We have the right steps. And looking back at how we played against Inter Milan, against a team that has been so dominant in the league, we're in the Champions League final and should have won it. We played and dominated the game and we should have won. But the reality is that you have to make it happen. And we didn't. These steps are what we have to take next. Be ruthless and be more efficient in the opposition box. And when we get there, do what we have to do to take the 3 points away from here. He was asked a couple of questions, as expected, about Victor Gyökeres. However, he wanted to sidestep them quite quickly. He says, I would like to talk about the team, the coaches, and how phenomenal they have been. They run, they are incredible, and that tells you it's not only about their qualities, but their ambition, the team energy they have. That's a great challenge that we have to come here tomorrow to make a statement and show that we are capable against this kind of opponent, to be ourselves and win the game. He was asked about Gyökeres being a modern style of striker, and he says, I understand the question, but they have a lot of individual qualities, and that's why they are able to make. They are able as well to win games in various ways. And yes, in certain positions, they have tremendous players. So a little bit at the end, he managed to kind of give us a little tiny piece of an insight into Gyökeres, saying that he's a tremendous player, and he wanted to stay, I think, as quiet as feasibly possible. When it came to talking about somebody who has been linked to Arsenal. We know what he's like when it comes to transfers, but yes, he didn't want to give anything away. He was asked about whether Sporting will cause a surprise with their new manager, and he says, I'm going to expect the same Sporting, because every coach and the coaching staff, of course, behind him would have their own ideas. We obviously analyse what was done and the things that we can tweak and what's been done to be prepared to try and understand as much as possible what we can try to do, especially on how we can hurt them. I'm looking forward to that. He was asked about Sporting beating Manchester City, and he said it was one of those. They had played other games, both in the Champions League and domestically, to try and understand the way that they behave about all kinds of opposition, because preparing for Man City is a very specific game, and then they would have had experienced it. You need a much broader picture to understand certain behaviours and understand why they do certain things. Obviously, we have analysed that, but it was a remarkable game. I think most people watching that Sporting Man City game recognise that Man City probably should have gone on to win that had they have taken the chances earlier on in the game. And it was kind of weird that Sporting managed to get back into it in the manner that they did. But they still managed to do that, and it was very, very impressive indeed. Right, we're going to go to part 2 for the next 10 plus minutes or so and tackle some of your questions right after this. Okay, this is part 2 of the show where we jump into the chat box and tackle some of your questions that you've got for us. I hope that the sound is coming through okay. I hope that all the pictures looking all right. According to you in the chat box, it seems to be fine. So, yes, that's certainly positive. Mike says, have you managed to get yourself a shirt yet? Not yet. Don't know when that's going to happen, if it's going to happen, but I'm sure it will happen at some stage. Gary says, there is no way in the world that Arsenal would be paying 130 million for Isak. We need to stop dreaming. There's no suggestions that that's how much, of course, that he would cost at the moment in terms of how much we can expect anybody, not just Arsenal, to pay for Isak. But being a player that is already in the Premier League and a player that, you know, is under contract until 2028, he is going to be expensive. But if he pushes for a move, if he really wants to make that switch to a Champions League club and play at that next level, maybe that would help bring the price down. Lloyd says this team needs a technical striker, someone who knows the net anywhere across the D, and Gyökeres is that over Isak any day. Jaffa says, if Gyökeres bullies Saliba and Gabriel tonight, I will want him. Gary says, why would Isak sign for a team that never wins trophies? Oh, Gary's trying to be a little bit testing the waters there, Gary. Ironically, of course, he signed for Newcastle there. Philip says, why is no one talking about Openda as a potential option? Of course, Openda, who joined Red Bull Leipzig a couple of seasons ago. He's actually someone whose name has come up on the channel a little bit. So far, he's got 5 goals and 4 assists in the Champions League for Leipzig this season, doing very well. He's a versatile player as well. He can also play not just through the middle, but can also play on that left-hand side. He scored 2 goals in Leipzig's 3-2 win over Bayer Leverkusen. He scored against other decent sides this season as well. Freiburg, for instance, been very good in the Bundesliga over the last couple of years as well. Got an assist against Borussia Dortmund. Still yet to play Bayern Munich this season, but he's also got an assist against Juventus in the Champions League. But we'll see how he gets on against Inter Milan in the Champions League in these coming weeks. And of course, he has been featuring for Belgium a lot more as well, starting their last 6 UEFA Nations League games as well, getting a goal against France in a 2-1 defeat and 2 assists against Israel as well. So maybe he's somebody that, if he continues on this type of form, could be looked at as another potential option for Arsenal in the forthcoming January or summer transfer windows. Wilson says, why on earth is Slot having a dig at Arsenal in terms of being the right points gap for? This guy needs to keep his mouth shut and worry about Liverpool. I'm not sure I've even seen these comments. Let me see if I can find them. Arne Slot not getting carried away despite Arsenal's Liverpool's sparkling start is the headline. Let's just see what he said exactly about Arsenal. He says, I think last year in 22-23, even later on in the season, Arsenal led by 8 points and City came back. You know, if you face Arsenal, City, Chelsea, Tottenham were great in defending City 4-0 as well. They are all able to win so many games in a row. It is nice to have this position, but we are definitely not getting carried away. I mean, of course, at this stage of the season, it's different. Arsenal's lead was much later on during the campaign, whether, that has any correspondence. But I think he's just providing Wilson some context and trying to take as much of the pressure off as he can. That's what managers try to do. They try to take the pressure off their team, their players, their coaching staff, and the fans as well. So naturally, I think Arne Slot was going to do that. I think it's more of it's probably not really the dig that you think that it is. Michael says, is there any more news on Arda Güler? Only beyond what we've heard already, nothing extra. There's been suggestions that Arsenal have got links, of course, with they've got links, of course, with Arsenal, and a potential loan move in January has been talked about, but nothing more has come out since we talked about that story a little while ago. Pablo says, Tom, Gyökeres, in my opinion, is more lethal in the last third than Isak is. Some people might suggest that Isak's got perhaps a more all-round game compared to Gyökeres, and of course has already got that Premier League experience. I'd be happy with either, to be honest. If Arsenal signed either of those 2 players, I would be very, very much enthralled to see either of those signings come through the door. But I don't expect that to take place in January. I think there's more chance that will happen in the summer. Amaral Gooner says, Tom, it was good to get a win against Forest. Yes, Forest, why are people saying that we're back? We do seem to get carried away. I think for the same reasons that people get underwhelmed or people lose their minds when Arsenal drop points, for the same reason, in the same direction, just looking at it as a win instead of a defeat. We're very reactive as a fan base. There's a lot of hyperbole around Arsenal always. But yes, people want to be positive again. People want to be encouraged again, want to be confident again. So, of course, they've got an entitlement to get excited about another potential Arsenal victory. Stu says, would you start Nwaneri tonight as Odegaard has just come back from a long layoff? No, I wouldn't, Stu. I'd still be starting Odegaard tonight. I think it's very important that Odegaard starts this game and continues to build up his momentum and his minutes, and he'll get a rest, of course, in potentially that game against Crystal Palace in the League Cup. But Odegaard's always, when he's been fully fit, as Arteta describes him as, has always been someone willing and able to play many, many, many games in succession. But with Nwaneri, it does mean that we can take off Odegaard in games perhaps sooner and give him some rests in certain games as well. Ray Beam says, any chance that we might see Jorginho as a regular feature in the team? His addition made us a lot more stable with a better rhythm. He has missed out on a lot of games this season. There's been a lot of question marks as to why he's not played more minutes than he has, because whenever he has played, he does add that calmness, as you point out. Is there a chance we might see him perhaps after that performance against Forest? There's definitely a chance that we could see him. There's no guarantee that we'll see Jorginho more, but there's definitely a chance based on that performance that we definitely could. Wilson says, do you think that Arsenal can still catch Liverpool? Of course, mate. There's always a chance to catch Liverpool. We've seen teams, as Arne Slot points out, drop leads that are quite significant, and it's still November. There's a lot more football to be played. Also, Liverpool's performances have come not necessarily in the most convincing ways. They've kind of squeaked past teams by a single goal, 2-1, 1-0, 3-2 in the case of their game against Southampton the weekend. They are fallible. They are definitely gettable, and they are in line to find out very soon, I think, about the challenges of the fixture schedule. They've got Real Madrid this week. They've got Man City at the weekend. Let's wait and see how things are looking come the end of this year. I did do a prediction about the games that Arsenal and Liverpool could face in these next few weeks up until the new year. And I still had Liverpool with a 6-point lead come the New Year's Day fixture. But that would definitely have seen that gap reduced down to 9 over that period of time. So there's a chance that could happen still moving forwards. And Arsenal, I think, have got a great chance to go on a run. We've played a lot of our most difficult games. We've still got, of course, trips to Anfield and Old Trafford, but we've done the Etihad, we've done Stamford Bridge, we've done Tottenham, we've done Aston Villa, we've done St James's Park. We've done a lot of really tough away games. I think we've got a great chance to, of course, do a really good thing moving forwards. Alex says, do you think Kai Havertz has the right mentality to be a backup striker? If we don't get rid of Jesus this summer, we would have 2 backup strikers on the way of over 200 grand a week. I think Jesus is probably heading towards an exit door. I wouldn't describe Havertz as a backup either. I would think that Havertz would be looked at as a competitive option that can also play in other positions on the field, attacking midfield. We know that he can play there. We know that in needs-must situations, he can play on the wide flanks as well. We also know that he could play in a 2-striker system and as a second striker if we needed him to. So, yeah, I think Havertz would be a really good foil to any new striker coming in. But Jesus, I'd be more keen to see moved on. And then you've maybe got to still think about bringing in a backup or a young centre forward that can maybe break through the ranks in a longer period of time from now. Or a versatile forward, of course, who can also play that. Adam Lookman, again, I've talked about him a number of times, can play centre forward, can play in the wide areas, mainly on the left. So that could be something that we might need to look at as well in the future. Mark says, do you agree that with Real Madrid in the UEFA and the soft win over the Saints, that's their City match is a serious possibility for a loss? I mean, of course it is. Manchester City, despite their poor form, are always going to produce, a big challenge for any team that are going to play them. So let's wait and see what happens with that. Phil says, I can't lie, Tom. Seeing a poor West Ham team pretty comfortably beating Newcastle at St James's Park does annoy me, seeing how we played against them. It's football, Phil. That's just what happens, mate. Teams like West Ham who've not had a really good season can go to can go to Newcastle and get a result after being not very good, and Newcastle might put on a worse performance as well. That's just football. That's just what happens. It sucks that we couldn't get the result. It sucks how bad we played in that game, but that is just the way that football is. Anyone can beat anyone, which is why I never get too carried away with kind of the whole entitled approach to should be winning leagues, should we winning titles. It's sport. Anything can happen, and we have expectations, of course, but you can't ever guarantee anything. I could definitely have never guaranteed you that City would lose 5 games in a row, but here we are. Stu says, how about a lineup with both Ødegaard and Winery? Who would you play and where? Meaning the left-hand side and the right-hand side. I think that you would move Ødegaard to the left and you'd put Winery slightly on the right. Winery seems a lot more comfortable in that right-hand side position, and as the less experienced player, you want to put them in the most comfortable position. And then I think you put Declan Rice as the holding anchor behind those two and being kind of that key Rodri figure behind those two players. And it's something that I definitely have an interest in seeing and definitely have an intrigue in seeing happen moving forwards. Lewis says, I think Jesus should take Sterling's role next season, save a backup Saka slot, so we won't get a better player than that. It's not actually a bad idea from Louis. Maybe Jesus comes in and stays as that wide depth and an option that could still be used. It depends on him as well. So I think that's definitely something that maybe people don't take into account as much as they need to. And Carl says the difference is Jesus came to us expecting to be a starting 9. Kai didn't. And that won't be a problem, in my opinion. Players get very attached to their positions, though, of course, and they've still got a challenge for those places. Right, that's going to bring us to the end of today's show. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter edition of these episodes over the next few days while I am away, so I hope you do forgive that, as well as the audio and the sound and the visual quality. If you could drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, though, if you're new around here with those notifications turned on, so you never miss a show, that would be very much appreciated. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning to break down tonight's game against Sporting. Hopefully Arsenal get a very big result and continue to climb that table in the Champions League. Have a fantastic day. Adios. And stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.